the decision that changes everything. Every novel is a lie, not about its content, about its perspective. Every novel tells you, trust me, see this world through this lens, and the reader agrees to that contract. They give you their imagination. Point of view is the lens, and choosing the wrong one, or using the right one badly, is one of the fastest ways to lose a reader's trust without them being able to explain why. Today we're going to demystify POV once and for all. Welcome back to the Story Forge. If this is your first time here, every video is practical. Every video builds on the one before it, and everything we talk about applies to any genre, any kind of story. Let's get into it. First, let's establish the landscape. You have three primary choices. First person. I walked into the room and knew immediately something was wrong. The character is the narrator. I sees, feels, filters everything. The reader is inside one skull for the entire book. The advantage, intimacy. We are inside the experience. We know what the narrator knows, feel what they feel, and the gap between what they believe and what is actually true creates incredible dramatic irony. The limitation, you can only be in one place at a time. You can only know what this character knows. And first-person narrators have a reliability problem. Readers are always aware at some level that this is one person's version of events. Third-person limited. She walked into the room and knew immediately something was wrong. The narrator is outside the character, but close. We follow one character's perspective at a time, seeing the world through their experience without being in the first person. This is the most commonly used POV in contemporary fiction for good reason. It gives you intimacy while also giving the author slightly more flexibility to shape the narrative voice. You are not trapped inside one person's word choices and limitations. Third person omniscient. The narrator knows everything, can move between characters' inner lives, zoom out to describe the world and comment on action from above. This is the oldest form. Tolstoy, George Eliot, Dickens. Used masterfully. It creates a sense of the world as a whole rather than one person's slice of it. Used poorly. It creates confusion about whose story this actually is, and distances readers from emotional investment. There is also second person. You walk into the room, occasionally brilliant for short fiction or very specific effects, rarely sustainable for a full novel. Let's talk about the mistakes. Mistake 1. Head hopping. This is switching point of view within a single scene without signaling the transition. Jumping from inside one character's head to inside another's mid-paragraph. Sarah felt a surge of hope. James was clearly hiding something. Wait, we're in Sarah's perspective. So how does she know James is hiding something? Is she observing behavior that leads her to that conclusion? Or did we just drift into James's interiority without noticing? Head hopping is disorienting. It breaks the contract. The reader's brain, which was comfortably settled inside one perspective, suddenly doesn't know where it is. The fix, commit to the perspective within a scene. Stay with one consciousness. Everything the reader knows should be filtered through that person's senses, thoughts, and interpretation. If you need to shift perspective, signal it clearly. A scene break, a chapter break, a clear transition. Mistake 2. The camera problem. This is the opposite of head hopping. A writer who is supposedly in first or third limited perspective, but writing as if they were watching the scene on a camera mounted on the wall. I walked in. The room was square. There was a wooden table in the center. 3 chairs were arranged around it. I sat down. This is technically in first person, but we're learning nothing about how the narrator experiences this room. What did they notice first? What does the table remind them of? What does sitting in that chair feel like in their body? POV is not just about pronoun choice. It is about perception. A paranoid character and a grieving character walk into the same room and perceive it completely differently. Their version of the room tells us who they are. Mistake 3. POV as a gimmick rather than a choice. Some writers choose first person because their favorite book uses it. Some choose omniscient because it feels more literary. Neither is wrong. But the choice should come from the story's needs. Ask yourself, whose misunderstanding of events drives the plot? Whose emotional journey is this story really about? What kind of intimacy do I want the reader to have with this character and this world? The answers to those questions tell you your POV. Here is a simple framework for choosing your point of view. Choose first person if the narrator's voice is the story. Their perspective, their personality, their specific way of seeing the world is so central that the narrative voice itself is a character. Think, unreliable narrators. Confessional stories, Deep psychological intimacy. Choose third-person limited if you want intimacy with one or two characters, but also want the craft freedom of a narrator who isn't limited by the character's vocabulary and blind spots. Most contemporary literary and commercial fiction lives here. Choose third-person, omniscient, if your story is genuinely about a community, a world, a social system, not a single person. If you have 5 or 6 characters whose inner lives are equally important to the story's meaning. If you want the narrator's voice to itself carry meaning, irony, distance, warmth, beyond any single character, your exercise. Take a scene you've already written, or a scene from a book you admire, and rewrite it in a different point of view. First person to third limited. Third to first, or flip the POV character. Write the same scene from the secondary character's perspective instead of the protagonist's. You will notice 2 things immediately. 1. The scene becomes a completely different scene. Not different events, different experience. That is the power of POV. 2. You'll discover which version is actually more emotionally true to what the scene needs to do. Often the right POV isn't the one you started with. Keep the version that serves the story. Delete the one that serves your habit. POV is a promise. It tells your reader, this is how close you are going to get, and this is the mind you'll be living inside. Make that promise consciously. Keep it consistently. And choose the lens that lets your specific story be seen most clearly. We've now covered 6 foundational craft elements. Starting with the ending, building character psychology, story structure, opening chapters, dialogue, and point of view. Next week, we're going to talk about the revision process. Specifically why your first draft isn't supposed to be good, and the system for turning it into something that is, I'll see you then. And if you are writing right now, keep going.